What's up, guys? Today I'm bringing you something a bit different, which is a mid-range warlock. I haven't seen a lot of this, so I thought I'd give it a bit of a showcase, show you guys how it works. So far today, it's been going pretty good for me. I've got like about 11 and 1 or 10 and 1, I think. So not heaps of games with it, but at the moment, about a week into the new meta, it seems like I could be alright. Definitely some room for improvement. So about the first 20 cards of this is just your normal zoo build. We've gone with the Lackey package, Sinister Deal, Evil Cable Rat, Evil Genius, and the one that makes all this worth it, which is the Evil Recruiter. Obviously a super strong card. Otherwise, we've just got the normal zoo cards. You've got your Flame Imps, your Soul Walkers, just that kind of low cost stuff. And then Diseased Vulture at the end, which is a huge power spike when you are able to play it and then instantly take damage. Either as early as turn 5, you can play it and then play the Flame Imp, or turn 6, you can play it and then tap for a new card. So that's super strong. And then towards the end of the deck, we have some more late game stuff, which is what does make it a bit different. I've added 2 Shadow Bolts, 2 Siphon Souls, Arch Villain Refarm, 2 Twisting Netters, and Lord Jaraxxus. And so this kind of these big clears and these really powerful cards at the end give you a bit more of an advantage or an opportunity to win towards the end of a game. Obviously, you've got the super strong early game and mid game, and this kind of makes it a mid-range deck and helps you win a few different matchups, which we'll go through today. Obviously, the Archvillain Refarm just provides you with heaps of big stuff at the end, which can be important when you're just trying to close out the very end of the game. Twisting Nether obviously is a good board clear when you have the ability to refuel so fast with all these lower cost cards. You can Twisting Nether and then really quickly rebuild a board if you've happened to lose it. I have got Jaraxxus at the end here. Some people think at the moment it's pretty unplayable, with Zephyr's always giving you Sacrificial Pact. I tend to disagree. It's usually pretty obvious if someone's playing a Zephyr's deck. Obviously their deck has only got one ofs, and you can just wait until they've played it. Usually they're playing it on curve or they're playing it towards the end of the game. You can just wait and then play your Jaraxxus afterwards, and that gives you some pretty good finishing power. So we'll get into some games now. This video is going to be showing kind of the zoo potential of the deck, showing that having these few big cards at the end doesn't stop you from getting really quick, strong wins in the early game. And then the next video with this deck will be showing kind of the late game power and how having these few late game cards really does boost the win rate of the deck. So enjoy the games and thanks for watching. Alrighty, so game 1 here is a super good example of the early game strength of this deck. So as you can see, we're up against the Druid. In the mulligan, I kind of thought about keeping this Evil Cable Rat just because it obviously is a really good enabler for the Lackey package, but it's a pretty weak as a standalone 2-drop, so I thought I'd toss it back, try and get something that curbs a bit better. Obviously I did not, but that's alright. So we're going to lead here with the Flame Imp. Pretty nice to draw a 2-drop. Obviously at this point I was not sure what kind of Druid he was playing, but right here it becomes pretty obvious he's playing the Quest Druid. He chooses not to use the coin there to get his first turn of the quest off, which is often a good decision. It kind of depends on the matchup. I just play the Direwolf here. I did think about tapping, but an early game board presence is really what's going to win me this game, so I just play the 2-drop and hit him for a bit, which is good. It's a pretty common turn 2 play for the Druid, where he does get to boost his quest but isn't completely wasting his turn. Bit unlucky here not having a 3-drop to play and being able to develop the board. Again here I expect him to probably hero power just because he is going to want to float a mana. And he ends up going with the bees, which was a bit of a surprise, but he does still have the coin, which he is going to play here. So it ends up being a pretty good turn for him, and it's a good way to use the coin without just wasting it on turn 1. I mean, he's basically done the same thing here, but a bit of a later turn, which works out nicer. Here I am just going to play the Diseased Vulture. As a standalone, I don't have a way to take any damage, which is a bit annoying, but it's just kind of the best statted minion I have, so I thought I'd play it. Again, I thought about trading with the Direwolf Alpha, but that's a kind of trade that he is going to want to do, so I just hit the face. It is a little bit weak to like Wrath or something like that, where he can keep one of his 1/1s, but it's not the big deal, and I kind of thought it was worth the risk. Here he's going to play Crystal Merchant, which is a super strong card, and it's often something that you're going to want to kill right away. In this instance, I actually choose not to kill it, just again because board presence is important, and I'm really kind of trying to smoke him down quickly. Once he gets that quest off, I am going to be on the back foot basically, because he's power spiked so much when he does that. I get a taunt, which is not too bad. It kind of helps protect my Disease Vulture, and then I'm just going to play as much stuff as I can to really widen the board before he finishes that quest off. This is his turn 5, which means it's the last turn, and he will activate the quest at the end of this turn, which is pretty scary. And it's about this point you basically want to be finishing the game as the Warlock. Thankfully, I see this come down. It's a pretty weak turn 5. It does not take a lot of damage off the board, and I do have the Soulfire in hand. So that is going to be a turn 6 lethal from me, which is pretty good. And again, it shows, even though I've drawn so many of the big cards at the end, the Twisting Nether and the 2 Siphon Souls, which are filling my hand, the deck still has more than enough burst to finish off in 6 turns, which is pretty impressive. I life tap there and get about the worst possible 3-drop, but that is going to be the end of game 1. The game 2 here is up against a Mage, again with the mulligan, just looking for a really strong 1-2-3 curve to start the game with. Unless you have multiple Lackey Synergy cards, I tend to kind of throw those back, just because obviously like a 2-mana 1-1 or a 2-mana 2-2 isn't that strong, and you really want to start the game off strong. So unless you've got that power surge into the 3-drop, which gives you the 5-5, then you tend to just want to look for a strong 1, 2, and 3. So I knew in terms of Mage decks, at the moment there's the Singleton deck with Reno and with Zephyrs. There's the Conjurer's deck, which is still popular from last season, and then there's the Secret deck as well, which people have been trying out. So he draws the free Secret on turn 2, which does make me think he is playing the Secret Mage. He doesn't choose to play whatever it is, which is a little strange. Made me think maybe Mirror Entity, and he didn't want to just copy a 2-drop. He wanted to save it until later. I'm just going to continue to play on curve here and Smork. He chooses to play the Secret this turn, which I thought was a bit weird, given that he didn't play it last turn. But maybe once he saw that I had a really aggressive start, if it was Mirror Entity, he thought, okay, I'm just going to need a minion here, and he chose to play it. I almost make the mistake here of playing my 3-drop straight off the bat, which wouldn't have been great if it was Mirror Entity, but it also made me think that it could have been that new AoE Secret. I can't remember what it's called. So I ponder here for a while as to what it could be. But I do eventually decide to make the attack first, which ends up being the right play because it is Flame Ward, that's what it's called. And so I managed to get my 3-drop down free of any damage, which is nice. So going into turn 4, I'm not really scared of any giants or anything like that. Just he hasn't got enough cards in hand, and it doesn't seem to be that kind of deck. He's just going to continue to draw cards, which is pretty weak, and does leave me open to kind of start building a big board. Ray of Frost, kind of annoying, but not too much of a big deal. Here I kind of have a couple options. I can play the 2/2 drops. I can play the Disease Vulture. I end up deciding that Fairy Dragon is going to be the play, and so I tap first just because I'm going to have 2 spare mana. As it turns out, I don't draw anything useful, so I just play the Fairy Dragon, but it leaves me open for the option to play something better if you draw first. He's going to get another free Secret for 2 and then play a second Secret. So I'm guessing another one of these is the Flame Area of Effect again. Probably wasn't paying too much attention there, which is why I'm having to look back at what happened. So again, I can play the Vulture and then coin a tap this turn, which is looking really good. I attack in, and the first one is Ice Barrier, the secret that he got for free, and the second one is again that Flame Ward. So making the right play again to attack there first before playing anything. I'm just going to hit face with this And then I believe here I do play the Vulture and then coin the tap, which is a super strong turn 5. A 4 mana 3/5 is kind of fair by itself, 8 stats in total, and then when you add the tap, it's basically a 5 mana 8/8 draw a card that turn, which is obviously insane. He's going to throw down the Naga Sandwich, which makes it pretty obvious that he's playing that big spell puzzle box deck, which is a little bit scary just because he can get some really cheap spells happening. I thought about Siphon Souling there, but then I was going to miss out on the free 3-drop from the Vulture, which I thought wasn't worth it. So I end up playing this Wolf here to get a nice trade into the Sea Witch, and then I get to play the Voidwalker on the outside of this Direwolf if I just in case he happens to have a charge or a rush or something, just to get that extra attack up with the Taunt. I've got a pretty wide board here. I am going to be kind of weak to AoE. I don't have a lot of refill. Thankfully, I do have this Disease Vulture in hand, which is super strong by itself. I can kind of start to generate back a board. So he chooses to Pyroblast me in the face with a discounted 5 cost Pyroblast, and then Fireblast me in the face again, leaving me at 4. So I'm guessing he's just hoping I don't have any extra damage from hand. Fortunately I do, and I'm able to close this out pretty easily. Again, a turn 7 win pretty early. Just showing that despite all these big cards in my hand, the 2 Siphon Souls and the Twisting Nether, I still have plenty of early game potential in Burst, which is super good. I even had 2 Soulfires there, so we possibly could have gone even further if we needed to. But yeah, that's another super early game win for the deck. And lastly here for our early game video for the Midrange Warlock, we have a game against a Hunter. So again, we have got 2 Lackey Synergy cards here, which are pretty good, but by themselves, like a 2 mana 2/2, not great. 3 mana 3/3, again fine, but not great. I think here I'm going to choose to get rid of the Fairy Dragon, because the curve that I've got here is looking like turn 1 Voidwalker, turn 2 Evil Genius, and then turn 3 Lackey Coin Evil Recruiter for a super strong turn 3. I actually end up drawing the Sinister Deal here, which makes this a little bit easier because I don't have to kill off my own Voidwalker on turn 2 with the Evil Recruiter. I can turn 1 Voidwalker, turn 2 Sinister Deal, and then again turn 3 Lackey, and then create the 5/5. So that's looking like the play at the moment. Obviously it's going to depend on what he does, but that's a super nice draw. So I'm just going to leave with the Voidwalker here. Obviously contest the board really nicely against his 1/1. He's going to trade there just to kind of see what's in the box, see what he can get out of it. It's looking like he doesn't have a turn 2 play, so possibly he could generate one. Looks like he couldn't, and he's just going to Hero Power there, which is super nice for me. Obviously being a board-oriented deck, any advantage on the board is super good. So here I am going to discover a Lackey. On an empty board, the Faceless Lackey is looking like the best option, just because I do want to start to really build a strong board. Next turn is going to be super strong for me, and the more I can improve that, the better. So I go with that one. The Kobold is also pretty good, dealing 2 damage is always strong. And after he plays this, I wish I would have picked it, because that would have been an easy trade with the Lackey to finish off this guy, but I unfortunately did not. So I'm going to play the Faceless Lackey here, and then coin out the Evil Recruiter. And that's a turn 3 9/9 between those 3 minions that I've just played. So that is obviously hugely unfair for turn 3, and it's why it makes this card so strong, the Evil Recruiter. He doesn't have a secret out, so he can't generate a 7/7 himself, which is obviously a super powerful turn 4 for the Hunter. So instead he's going to discover something. pretty inefficient use of his mana for turn 4, just playing a 2-3, which obviously really works to my advantage, allowing me to keep building up this really strong board that I'm starting to make. Does choose to trade there. Here I can Vulture or I can Evil Recruiter and tap. I'm going to make the obvious trades here. Smork for 5 and then just play the Vulture. It's the best statted minion I can play at the moment, and it means that next turn, because it's already down, I'll be able to tap to get the value out of it and also play some other cards as well. So he's going to Mark Shot, which makes me think maybe he's setting up for an Unleash the Hounds next turn. Turns out he actually generated an Arcane Shot early in the game, so he's able to finish off that, but he chooses not to kill the 3/5, which is possibly a mistake just because it's going to allow me to start building a really massive board. Again, in hand I draw the Evil Recruiter, which is really nice because I have the Evil Genius in the hand already, which means I can refill if I need to. If I happen to lose the board, I've got easy refill there. I'm just going to play out my stuff just to make my board really wide. It is a little bit weak to Unleash the Hounds, but with the taunt there, it mitigates a lot of the damage that Unleash would do. He ends up bringing out this combo, which is obviously pretty strong, but he does not. Earlier in the game, when he copied a beast, he did not manage to copy the Tundra Rhino, which is a bit of a shame because otherwise he could have had 2 of them, and that would have been a really strong turn. So I got pretty lucky for me. So this is a kind of an example of where having these late game clearance cards are really good. I can use the Siphon Soul here to kill one of these minions, and it will mean that I don't have to really bring down my board by doing a lot of unnecessary trading. It is a bit annoying that I'm not able to fit in a life tap here as well. Obviously that would have been really good to generate another 3/3, but yeah, the addition of that Siphon Soul means that I get to keep my whole board rather than having to trade, which is really nice. He's going to play a Mark Shot, which he discovered, which goes pretty well for him, and then he's going to kill Command, leaving me with a pretty small board, but he is going to concede there. That's a third and final example, just showing the power of the early game power of this deck, and how adding those big cards toward the end hasn't really stopped its ability to do that. So in the right matchups, you can still really pop off in the early game and not even need the late game cards, which we've seen in these 3 examples here. So in the next video, we'll be showing kind of how helpful the late game cards can be, the Jiraxxus and the board clears. So stay tuned for that, and thanks very much for watching.